I'm going to call the meeting to order. The City of Milton Common Council, Tuesday, July 28th, 2020 at 6:01 p.m. Can I get confirmation of appropriate meeting notice?
The agenda was posted at Dave's Ace Hardware, Piggly Wiggly, and Milton City Hall.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I feel like the whole council moved it, but I'll pick somebody, Ryan, and who else? Linda, okay, Ryan motioned and Linda seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have an agenda. Okay, so Ryan has done double duty, so I guess he's done for the year. So Linda, do you want to lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have my laptop on a Kleenex box, so you can see me. So if you can't hear me, do the usual wave of the hand. Before we get started, I know that we have had many emails regarding our mask advisory, and those emails have been shared with the council as they have come in. I have not received anything for quite a few hours, so there isn't anything outstanding that I've received that I haven't shared with anybody. One of the things that I did want to talk about is kind of review what the council has done over the last few months in terms of mitigation efforts and due to the virus, and really trying to care for the community and try to kind of influence the impact of the virus. So if you recall, some of the things that we have done, we let people cancel park reservations without any fees. We suspended our revaluation for property taxes on commercial and residential. We delayed the date to apply for liquor licenses, and we reduced the fees for liquor licenses. We extended the real estate property tax deadline. We had a moratorium on late fees for utilities and pet licenses. And is there anything else that I might have missed that anybody, Al, Inga, can think of? So consistently, the council has looked for ways to help our community navigate through this unprecedented pandemic, and having a discussion related to a mask advisory is very consistent with what we have been doing, or all you have been doing this entire time. And I'm proud of the efforts that we all have made to take care of our community. And this is another opportunity for us to be thoughtful and think about another area that impacts all of us. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about those previous actions that the council has taken is there wasn't any level of consternation from our community about why we were doing those things, or questioning whether there was a hoax that was taking place, or consulting with the county and adopting their phased-in plan and following their recommendations. There wasn't those issues. We have consistently followed the science and public health, and we have navigated the best that we could, all of us, elected officials and city staff. We have asked a lot of everyone, and we've asked a lot of our residents and our business community, and we've done well. We have done well. So I'm proud of all of us. But it also demonstrates the level of emotion and at times emotional dysregulation that happens when we or other communities discuss advising mask wearing. And it's important to distinguish that, because up to this point, the actions we have taken have just not caused this level of emotion. And it's important to name it and recognize it when we discuss something that causes high emotional responses. So when those take place, we can show kindness and we can show compassion. And we should show that to folks regardless of whether they're for or against. And we should show it to each other and to ourselves. So, as we have had various topics come before us in public hearings that have been impactful or emotional, I have always talked about being respectful and kind, both to those that are having public comment and to anyone else that is on the Zoom meeting. So those are the same guidelines that we'll have as usual this evening. And we will have public comment, and we'll limit it to 3 minutes. We will anticipate respect and kindness, but if people struggle to maintain that, or if there's attacks, personal attacks, or just general disrespect, I would interrupt, as I have done in the past, and or that person may be muted, or they may be asked to leave the Zoom meeting. We have not had that happen at all. And we've discussed many subjects, and we've had, it seems like, quite a few public hearings. And everybody has done just great. I anticipate that same level of decorum tonight. I'm not changing, anything that I have said prior to that, just a reminder. We also will follow the process that we have been following, where I just go through and acknowledge each council member and their right to be heard. And then we can go through a second time. Because we have strategic planning scheduled tonight, thank you for your grace on this topic being added. We are going to start strategic planning no later than 7. And we're going to stick to that, or we're not going to get what we need to get done tonight, and it'll be a long night, and we won't think well when it gets late. So let's start. Council members, 3 minutes, public 3 minutes. Is there anybody that would like to talk about the mask advisory for the city of Milton, which I'm going to have Inga share with you in a second what the mask advisory looks like, because there has been a tremendous amount of confusion. And if in any way the city wasn't clear on it being a mask advisory. We want to make sure we're clear now that it's an advisory. And then later, there's a discussion about a mask policy for public facilities in the city of Milton. And then there's strategic planning. So Inga, what I'll do right now is I'll have you, if you would please share the mask advisory.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
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 I think that the easiest thing is just to focus on this in brief section. These are the highlights of the advisory.
Yeah, and I can just to be clear, on the agenda, are we still on public comment?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Okay.
So I was just wanted to make sure that if anybody from the public was wanting to comment on it, that there wasn't any confusion over whether it was a mandate or an advisory. Does everyone feel like you've had enough time to refresh yourselves on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll have Inga take that down now. And then if there's a time where we feel like we would like to reference it, either during public comment or while council speaks, I can have Inga pull it back up again. Does that sound fair? Okay, so is there anybody that would like to comment on the mask advisory? And what Inga has done in the past is if somebody is on the Zoom meeting, she will just acknowledge that person and ask them if they want to make a comment on this subject. If this is a subject they don't want to make a comment on, then we will thank them and we'll just move on to the next person.
So the first person from the public I'm seeing is Patty.
Yeah, and I did, I shared a statement, so I sent it to the council. I want to thank the council for putting out this advisory for the city of Milton. I am one that is immunocompromised with a lot of health challenges, and just advising this gives me a little bit more freedom, hopefully, to go out in public a little bit and be less housebound by this virus. It does bring up a lot of controversy for people because, people are against it too, and it's been brought to me with it. But hopefully, maybe I can go back to work with it and be more comfortable using transportation. But this has hindered me a lot from even leaving my home without having something in place or something within Wisconsin with it. Because I cannot drive right now, so I have to get in a car and I don't have a choice whether that person has to wear a mask or not. And this does not solve it here just in Milton, but it's a start. And that's just what I got to do. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Patty.
Okay, the next person I'm seeing is Danny. Did you want to say anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I just kind of want to say that, I don't have an opinion one way or the other because I do represent a mass majority of business members, and there's so much diverse opinions on this. However, whatever the city of Milton does decide on, I will support, and I will further the information on the business community for you guys.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Inga, anyone else?
No, the only other person is Kim from the Courier, but I think she's just here to cover the discussion.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I am gonna go ahead and just do our little like round robin, and I'll start off with Bill Wilson.
Thank you. First of all, I think we've certainly heard more from the public on this through emails and phone calls and so on, certainly than any other issue in my short experience on the council. So we thank the public for weighing in and in line with what the mayor suggested. The phone calls that I received were quite respectful, and people were expressing their opinions, which I think is very, very appropriate for them to do. Let me say that I really understand the pain that some of the business owners in particular are experiencing. Many of you know that we used to run a small business ourselves. And as a small business owner, I know what interrupted cash flow looks like and know how critical that can be, especially when you're small. It's a frightening kind of a thing for restaurants, bar owners, and we've seen all kinds of numbers that say that many businesses are closing and will not, in fact, recover. That said, I really support the idea of this advisory. The fact that it's not a mandate does offer that opportunity for businesses to exercise their ability to disagree with this policy. I would hope that it would be treated in the spirit of other advisories that are issued. There are many that come from government. There are heat advisories that come out when temperatures, we had some recently where temperatures were going to, or heat index was going to exceed 100 degrees. And it was suggested that people drink more water, that they try to stay in, what type of clothing they should wear. Pretty personal kinds of stuff. But those things were suggested. There are other advisories that get issued. Whenever we have a real dry spell, there are advisories that are issued in regard to burning, and sometimes that actually takes the form of more than just an advisory in terms of a ban on burning. So government has a role, I think, to play to say, this is a good idea and we'd all be better off if we did this. I treat this, I think we all treat it kind of from a personal aspect. I'm 72 years old. I have a history of asthma. I'm a twofer as far as the health community is concerned in terms of bad things happening should I get it. The wearing of masks is not for the individual wearing the mask. It's largely for those that are around them. I hope and would encourage the residents of Milton to take this as an advisory as opposed to a mandate, and to consider their neighbors and their friends and their family members and voluntarily comply. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And I think like you were pretty darn close to that 3 minute without going over. So good on you. Teresa.
You're muted.
Okay, much like everyone else, I do appreciate the phone calls and the emails and sharing your opinions and your thoughts. That has helped me understand what the thoughts are in the community. I do plan to support this because primarily it is an advisory, as Bill stated, rather than a mandate. And I do think that it allows people to make their own decisions regarding them or their families. I do think that it does allow us each to consider our own health and wellness as well as those around us, and to make that decision to accommodate that. And I would advise us to consider wearing the mask, but ultimately, of course, it is your choice, and situations vary in terms of businesses and homes and where you're at. But to give that consideration in terms of health and wellness, as I said.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Another one under the 3 minutes. The pressure is on. Ryan?
Echo, I guess, Teresa and Bill about the all the comments and stuff. It was nice to see all the comments in a way. But also there's a lot of information that's, as a lot of these things these days, it's getting passed around that's kind of inaccurate. And I'm actually really glad that the county put out statistics on Milton itself. And some interesting statistics, just running the numbers there. 30 of the last 50, of all of our 52 cases in the city were positive as of the last month, based according to their statistics, which makes it 58% of all cases that have been positive in Milton basically have been reported on in the last month. And there were 9 the previous month. So that's a 333% increase. So honestly, I think that means that it makes sense for us to do something proactive about it. And it's because it's an increasing factor in our community. I think it makes sense to start down this path to some extent. I kind of also support the idea of doing this advisory. If it's a mandate, then I think it requires more discussion and stuff like that. And since it's not a mandate, I think this advisory makes a lot of sense, especially given that in our own community, not looking at Rock County, not looking at the state, not looking at the nation or the world, in our own city, it definitely is increasing. And it'd be good for us to put out something, I think, to support it. Also, I think it gives businesses some type of a little bit of help when it comes to trying to decide if they want to make masks mandatory in their own facility, because they could say, hey, the city suggests that we, have masks when you're inside, when you're not out, basically when you are in another building outside of your home. And it kind of gives them a little bit of more support if they want to make the decision to make it mandatory in their facility or in their building. So that's kind of my stance on it.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for being 3 minutes and under. Linda, the test is you, I think.
Oh, you think so? Well, actually, I support this. I think that having this advisory out there as government officials, I think that lets people realize that not only have we done those other things that you mentioned, but we're also thinking about what their needs are. But it's all volunteer, just as everyone has stated. And, the hopes is that people will just adhere and, for the sake of others, wear a mask when they're out in public.
Linda, I think it was under 2 minutes. Well, we'll give you some extra time during strategic planning. Larry?
Good evening. When I think of mandatory, I think of freedom. When I think of advisory, I also think of freedom. I'm proud to be an American, and with that comes both freedom and responsibility. And it really comes down to this for me. I'm in support of the advisory. In fact, I probably would be in support of a mandate. I work in healthcare. I just finished a 10-hour day wearing a mask all day long. When I first started wearing a mask, man, I didn't like it at all. But now I've reached a point where wearing it doesn't even become an issue for me anymore. It's not uncomfortable physically anymore. It's not uncomfortable mentally. And I wear my mask to protect others. And I believe that as an American, it's my obligation to protect my fellow citizens. And so I'm asking all of you to consider wearing your mask in public, wearing your mask inside a facility to help yourself, your children, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Under 3 minutes. Devin?
Much like Bill, I also suffer from asthma. It would be a very large complication if I were to contract the virus. I also do want to thank the public for all of your insight, but I am for the advisory. I think it's a good idea, and I think we as a community need to respect everyone else's health and help eradicate this.
Thank you very much, Devin. Is there anyone that would like a second 3 minutes or 2 or 1? Just raise your hand. Nicely done, Council. Nicely done. Is there a motion? Al has something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I appreciate a lot of the comments that the council has already made. You know, we did receive a lot of feedback on this, and the vast majority, at least that I saw, which I think I probably saw all of it, you know, there was a tremendous confusion that surrounded this. A lot of people contacted us with the thought that it was a mandate, and that it's never been a mandate. And it's, you know, when Inga put the advisory up earlier, we wrote that advisory with the specific purpose. The very first sentence says, this is not a mandate. So I'm not really sure how that happened. In talking to some of those people, there was confusion on how it was reported, and I've tried to address that. Kind of disappointed in how that kind of got rolled out. I don't know if it was really accurate or fair on how it was reported in the local press. But you know, I've had conversations with the editor about that, and she understood and agreed. So, you know, I think there was a lot of negativity surrounding it on Facebook and things like that, but the negativity seemed to be around the confusion that it was a mandate, and it never has been a mandate. So I'm glad that we were able to clear that up with a lot of people, and that's one of the benefits of reaching out to us, is we can help people understand what that's all about. And, you know, one of the strong pieces that the mayor and I have talked about this that I think is important is that it does show support for those businesses who have already chosen to do this. I feel like to a certain degree, they're kind of left out there in the wind. They're getting beat up on social media. They're getting, they're getting a lot of praise as well, but there aren't any entities that are supporting them in their decisions. And this is an opportunity for the council to say, you know, this is the right thing to do, and thank you for doing that. And perhaps we know, and at least Anissa and I know, that there are businesses who have contacted us that have asked us to do something so they have cover. So they can say, you know, hey, you know, I'm doing this because. And although this advisory doesn't, in essence, give them cover, it does give them support that I don't think they have from anyone else right now. The county maybe to a certain degree, but you know, that's a tough decision for those business owners to make, and I think it's good that we can do that. That's my opinion only, but that's the mayor brought that up, and I think it's a very important piece of this story that isn't being talked about at all anywhere.
And the other thing I'd like to mention too, along with what some of the council members have said, is that regardless of where people's opinions or thoughts were on the issue of an advisory, you know, I would say the overwhelming majority, if not all, of the contact has been respectful, and it has been kind, and I appreciate that, because if you look at social media, you would think that there are a lot of jerks out there. And at least for us, they were not jerks. They may have been on social media, but they weren't when they contacted us. And I appreciate that. And I think it speaks highly of our community. And I appreciate everyone that took the time to contact us. This is what it's all about. This, sometimes we're like, oh, nobody ever contacts us or gets engaged. Well, we found an issue to engage them, I guess. And I appreciate that. And we don't want to govern in a way that isn't inclusive. And I think you all know where my heart is there. And so if there isn't anything else, Teresa looks like she has one more comment.
Just to explain, when Al brought it up, that reminded me, on the news, one of the news stations had brought up the idea that this, in Milton, it was a mandate. And it put it on as a mandate, and then it said on tonight's agenda, it would be looked at as an advisory, but it stated it several times as a mandate. So I'm assuming that's kind of where people were getting the idea and passing it around, that we were making, I mean, not that that was the sole source, but, they weren't just making it up.
Well, and that's just, one of those challenges that's not necessarily new to local government, but it's a challenge. And as you could see, we had to work really hard to try to clarify that. And I wanted to be very intentional this evening to make sure that everyone understood what we were talking about when we're talking about an advisory. Now, there is another item that talks about city facilities that is different than this. And we'll get to that next. But is there a motion? Linda?
So moved.
And Ryan is second.
Second. Mm-hmm.
And just to clarify, that's a motion to approve the public health advisory regarding face masks for the city of Milton?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? That motion carries. So our second item, while I flip over this piece of paper, discussion and possible action regarding a mask policy for public facilities. And Al, if you can clarify what public facilities means.
Yeah, so we specifically called that out in the policy as to only pertain to the public buildings in which business is conducted. So City Hall, the Police Department, the Public Works Building on Northside Drive, and the Milton Public Library. So it doesn't apply to parks or bike trails or playgrounds or sidewalks or streets or the community house, or if you're in a blimp. It's only the public facilities that are outlined in the policy.
And when we talk about public facilities, is it correct that these facilities are staffed by City of Milton employees?
Correct. All of those are.
So that would be, so if somebody hears about this and there's a question over whether something is a public facility, the question to ask is, do City of Milton staff work there? And now we're not talking about the streets. I know we work in the streets. DPW works in the streets, but does that building in particular, is that a place of employment for city staff? I think that might help clarify this.
Yeah, it's in the definitions section, which is the second section of the policy. In the attachment document, what we included was what's known as like a redlined version, so you can see where the changes. So we specifically define City of Milton facilities as refers to City Hall at 710 South Janesville Street, Police Department at 690 South Janesville Street, Public Works Facility at 150 Northside Drive, and the Milton Public Library at 430 East High Street. Parks and their facilities, shelters, community house, etc., and polling locations are excluded. The city encourages community members in those spaces to wear a face mask as well. So it is specifically called out in there.
Just quick, one thing that we should probably do is add the utility office building in. I didn't think about that when we were going through the revisions, but our utility staff, they work in a separate building most of the time that's kind of on the public works grounds, I guess, but it probably wouldn't hurt to call out that building specifically as well.
Yeah, we can do it. You're talking about the wastewater treatment facility?
Yeah, and the water guys are in there as well.
Yeah, typically members of the public don't go to that building.
No, so
it's a little stinky.
not the offices. The offices are not the stinky part.
Fine, yes. Yeah, I'm sure I'll hear about that from Lon or Steve tomorrow. But,
we have no idea because we don't go there. We cannot confirm or deny the stinkiness.
But I'll add in language to include kind of the wastewater water facilities as well. I think that makes sense to do.
Okay, so I'm just going to start. Ryan, comments, questions on this Milton facilities policy?
Currently, all of our staff are wearing masks as it is. This is basically just affecting those coming in, so it's basically for the protection of our staff. Correct?
Correct. Protection of staff, but also protection of other individuals who may be coming to those facilities.
True.
You know, the police department in City Hall has glass, which is actually better than a mask.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the concern that we have is somebody enters into the City Hall lobby to pay a utility bill, and then somebody enters in right behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody enters in to pay a utility bill, isn't feeling well, maybe coughs, maybe sneezes, and then, you know, they leave, and then somebody else comes around the corner. It's just another protective measure for the public as well as the staff. But at Public Works and the public library, you know, our staff are immediately exposed. There are no barriers there. So it's dual purposed in our opinion. It's for the staff and for the community's protection.
That's what I figured, but I wanted you to just actually say it out loud.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Sorry. Thanks, Ryan. Linda.
I think that the changes you have made to this copy are in line with everything that we need to do for our employees. I have no questions about this at all.
Thanks, Linda. Larry?
As a former employer, a business owner, and also in my current role at work in the healthcare system, I know the value of protecting your employees. I think it's an obligation of an employer to do everything possible, given the science that's available and the information that's available, to act in an appropriate manner to protect employees and also the customers coming in to the building.
Thanks, Larry. Devin?
I have no comments.
Thanks, Devin. Bill?
My only comment is along the line that Larry brought up, but I'll add another slight aspect to it. An employer has a responsibility to provide a safe work environment. And so as an employer of city employees, I think that this is about trying to provide a safe work environment. The second aspect that I'll add is that we want the public to be safe as well, those that enter our public facilities, and it's about them as well. So I'm pleased to support this.
Thanks, Bill. Teresa?
Yes, and I do support it. I don't have it in front of me, so I wanted to make sure that during the voting and so forth, anyone that's volunteering, so forth, would also then be having to wear everything covered. Okay.
Yeah, the polling places are excluded for visitors because we can't restrict somebody's right to vote if they are not wearing a mask. But members who are individuals who are working there would be required to wear one, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's it. Otherwise, great.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve it.
I'll second.
You're muted, Nisa.
I'm muted. There's probably people cheering. Ryan motioned and Larry seconded and Mark's raising his hand.
Not to delay things, but were you going to be opening this up to public comment?
I felt like I did at the beginning during public comments. Would you like me to ask again if there was somebody that wanted to make a public comment?
Sure, that would be, I would think that's a good thing to do.
I just understood that it was in reference to the health advisory, but that and some people may have been. I just wanted to raise that for you.
Oh, I appreciate that, Mark S. Is there, I'll let Inga do her thing.
Yeah, so John Cruzan, he joined us. I don't know if he is interested in speaking at all.
He's probably on his bike.
John, you're muted if you didn't know that. Okay. Well, the only other public member
getting a cup of coffee. That's fine.
The only other public member we have right now is Kim from the Courier.
Oh, John.
I might like
to.
I might like to make a comment.
Oh, Anissa, you're muted.
So, just a second, Kim. John, we had called on you before, and I don't know if you heard that. If you wanted to make a comment on the public facilities.
I did hear you, and no, I don't feel a need to comment. I'm just kind of listening to the dialogue, and so I could kind of stay current with that. I do not have really anything to add to that. Personally, I'm in support of that particular line of thinking. So.
Thank you, John. And Kim, are you commenting on behalf of the Courier or as an individual?
So actually, I guess as an individual, but I'm just wanting to say that anything that appeared in the story that we wrote did not say anything other than advisory. We never said mandate under anywhere in anything we wrote. In fact, we just picked up some information that we thought would alert the public because it fell in that dead space that we have between, when we publish and when things happen. So we just put something out there so people would know the discussion was taking place. And it is a hot button discussion. So we thought, people would want to know and maybe perhaps want to weigh in. I personally don't have an opinion one way or the other, but I did want to stress that we never said the word mandate in anything, anywhere. I'm sure if you go back and read everything that was written, you'll never find anything other than the word advisory.
Okay, thanks, Kim. So I'm gonna, Mark S., I want to circle back. If I remember correctly, we have a motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thanks, and thanks, Mark, for doing that because I was zooming right along.
So we will, just so folks know, we'll make the change that Inga had mentioned regarding the utility office.
Yeah.
And also forgot to mention that in a conversation earlier this morning, we had talked about revising the language where it says, according to the CDC, face masks should, and that information continues to change. So we're just going to write in accordance to the latest CDC guidelines. So in essence, what we're going to do is remove those bullets because that has changed since, in early March, they thought one thing. And so we wanted to just say in accordance with the latest CDC guidelines. So I apologize for not mentioning that sooner.
Mark,
so we'll send that out.
And I'm sorry, who was the second on the motion? I have Ryan as the motioner, and then Larry is the second. Okay.
So 6:45. Nice work, everybody. And this is like the most exciting part of our night, I hope. Oh, Marcus, here we go. We're not moving yet.
Well, just to know, I can only take so much excitement in one day. So I'm assuming that you don't require my attendance for this portion of the meeting. Is that correct?
Did you read the Brene Brown book?
I don't think I sent him the chapter.
Oh, okay. So Inga will send you the chapter on Brene Brown, so you know how we're going to be approaching everything going forward. But we do thank you for spending time with us tonight, and you're, as always, free to go enjoy your evening.
Okay.
If
Thank
we
you.
have to sit through this.
Hey, this is going to be fun.
Yes.
Looks like Linda already made a run for it.
It will be broadcasted on YouTube for everybody else's future viewing pleasure.
Oh, gosh.
Linda's already in bed.
Well, she made a run for it, as I said.
She's taking her mandatory 15-minute break. She knows she's not going to get one for 2 hours.
Does anyone need a break before we start?
I'll take one.
Do you want to take a minute?
Yeah.
Why don't we come back like at 6:55? That's 8 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good to me.
So I'm going to hand this over to Inga. And thank you, Inga, for all the work you've done.
Yeah.
And let's get the show on the road.
So I sent out a copy of the PowerPoint presentation for tonight. I'm not going to call it a presentation. I'm going to call it a discussion roadmap, because the goal is to have me not do a ton of talking. The goal is to have all of you talking and discussing the mission, vision, and values. And that's going to be the main topic for tonight. So let's make sure I can, everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So bear with me because I have multiple screens and multiple things I'm looking at. So we'll see how this goes, right? So again, the focus for tonight is going to be on the mission, vision, and values. And we'll just do a quick overview of the process that we're going to be doing for the development of the strategic plan as well. So the process that I outlined in the project charter and timeline was taken from John Luthie's book, Planning the Future. That's one of the chapters that I sent to you that focused on the mission, vision, and values. He has decades of experience in local government and strategic planning, and I found his process to be probably the most clear and straightforward and government focused as well. So this is just a thought exercise that I thought could get us warmed up to start thinking strategically about the plan. So individually brainstorm for a few moments reasons why an organization or department should strategically plan. And what I'm going to do for the first time, guys, is use this whiteboard function that Zoom has. So what you can do is on the top of your screen, there's a view options dropdown. And you can select annotate, and then you can actually type in the responses yourself if you want. Or we can just say them, and then I'll type them in for us. Whatever we want to do, whatever's going to work better.
So Inga, so I have the drop down, the view options. If I want to type something in, do I just click text, or how do I type?
Yep, click text, and then you can click on a spot on the whiteboard and start typing. You should be able to. We tested it during the department head meeting today, at least.
Just anything we want?
Yep, any reason that you can think of that a department or organization, oh wait, I'm in the wrong. Sorry guys, I have a lot of these set up. There you go. Let's start here. So individually brainstorm for a few moments reasons why an organization or department should strategically plan.
How do I change my color from blue?
Under the format, there you can drop down and you can see a different color.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
And if anyone has anything that they want me to just type for them, I can do that too.
How do you get to whiteboard again, Inga? Sorry, I've done this before, and now I can't find it as an option. So,
I'm sharing the whiteboard.
Gotcha.
So you should see it, right?
I see it. Yes.
Okay. So then on the view options up at the top.
Yep.
And then click on annotate.
Gotcha. That's what I was missing. Thank you.
Yep. And department heads, feel free to add some in too.
Everybody gets to see how poor I type now.
And then when you're done, Inga, what do you do? I mean, when you're done typing.
Maybe this is my first time trying this, so maybe just press enter.
Okay, thanks.
See what happens?
Well, it just skips down to the next. Okay, just a minute.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there.
Well, we got a lot.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I wonder if I can move them.
Yeah, I wondered too.
Maybe I'll make boxes for everybody next time.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm seeing provide a sense of direction, guide future decisions, encourage participation and other perspectives. Not planning is like sailing a ship that never gets to its destination. To work more efficiently as a whole, outline measurable goals, have a shared experience, make sure the decisions we make match the values of the community, team building, to give direction and decision making. I think these are all good reasons why we should plan strategically. Just a couple other ones: accountability, make sure that we're doing what our community wants us to do, what our employees need us to do, and also just transparency, just making sure that we're all on the same page as we're moving or sailing the ship forward, right? So, anything else on this topic that we want to talk about? Okay, so we will go back to the PowerPoint. So we are future-focused leaders during this discussion. Basic predictions of the future lead to productive strategic discussions. Oop. And the more we talk about and discuss the future, what it may look like based on probability or predictability of certain events coming up in the future, the more likely we will be prepared to react to the new reality that we're facing. So our subject matter experts, our SMEs, SMEs, they're in the best position to know what to expect in the future because they are living the operations of their departments every day. But it's also important that we include our elected officials, our community members, because sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective for that person to see something differently. So that's why we all need to collectively work together during this process. And John Luthi in his book, he talks about being realistic during this process. So we won't have an IKEA pop up in the business district in the next 5 years. That's likely not going to happen, unfortunately for me personally. But what we can look to do is to increase commercial development along the Highway 59 corridor and look for new ways to engage those potential businesses. That might be something that realistically we could do. So we want to look at those different options as well. So this is a quote that I thought was nice to include in the presentation. While we cannot foretell the future, we can identify important developments that already have happened and will have major and predictable future impacts. Any attempt to manage in turbulent times must start with that which is predictable. So we aren't going to be able to see every crisis around the corner. We're not going to be able to predict every future event, but we can take the information that we have and plan for the predictable and be more ready to respond than we would have been if we hadn't gone through this process. Right now, we are living through a global pandemic, as we've talked about tonight. We need to talk about what this may mean for budgets, staffing, services, and more related to our operations. We need to discuss our new reality and how it aligns with the needs of our community. We also need to discuss any other potential challenges we see down the road unrelated to the pandemic. So we're trying to look at the probable, the predictable, and plan for those different impacts on the future. So I'm going to go to the whiteboard again. Again, this is the first time using the whiteboard for us, so we're experimenting a little bit. I wonder if I can. Here, we'll make some boxes.
Yeah, cool.
So the question we have now is, if the population of the city of Milton grew by 30% in the next 5 years, how will that affect the organization? So we'll have Anissa in this long bottom box. And then Larry, you can have this top one. Ryan and Devin. Teresa will be in this bottom left one. And I always forget people. Bill. And who am I missing now?
Linda.
Linda. It's always the last one that gets me. So you can have this last box right here then.
All right. Thank you. Oops.
There we go. Okay. Oh, I did it again. So I'm seeing increased stress on public works, larger need for fire, EMS, police services, increased use of utilities and roads, may require a different level of staffing to cover the additional needs of those people, need to work in partnerships rather than advancing our own vision, stress services and infrastructure, challenge to keep small town feel values, increase diversity, provide more opportunities for employment. And I know that each department is going to view this question in a different way. So Dan, our finance director, is going to be, focused on the numbers and how we're going to make those things work. And then Howie in Public Works, he's going to be talking about, infrastructure and how we can plan for those future developments. Same thing with Mark. He's going to be trying to figure out how to make these roads work for us with an increased population. Okay. So we will go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So there are characteristics of a strategic thinker that John Luthi talked about in his book, and these are a few of them that he listed. So I'm just going to point out a few of them. Of course, curiosity about the world around you and being interested in that. In touch just means leaders and managers are up to date on important community and regional events, and others that are involved that are maybe more in touch with internal operations and events. Courage to ask the tough questions to the group that's involved in the strategic planning process about where we're headed as a community or an organization. Active listener, I think, is also important to point out as well. Active listening in that we're not just listening to what people are saying, but also hearing them and being open to those different points of view as well. These are the strategic plan elements that he pointed out in his book, and this is the different elements that we're planning to have in our strategic plan. So mission, vision, and values we're planning to cover tonight during this meeting. And then in subsequent meetings, we'll talk about the strengths and major issues, challenges facing the community. In the book, he mainly talked about major issues and challenges, but Al and I have talked about the importance of also talking about Milton's strengths and things that we want to maintain as we're going forward into the future as well. A lot of people talk about the small town charm of the Milton community. That's maybe something that we want, that's a strength, and we want to maintain it going forward. So then we'll move into goals, objectives, and strategies and actions. And then we'll take all these pieces and put them together into a final document. So this is an example of a mission statement. I'm not saying that it's the perfect mission statement or a bad mission statement or anything like that. It's just an example. So with integrity and involved citizens, the City Council will strive to preserve a high quality of life, meet the public's needs with cost-effective services, and foster a community in which people are proud to live. What does the group think about this mission statement?
I'm going to go first if that's okay with everyone. I like this. I think it's a good place to start. I would also wonder what everybody thinks about adding something about being a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive community, or creating a culture, a welcoming culture of inclusion. I don't know if that fits into this portion of mission, because sometimes, you know, I think mission and vision maybe are intersectional, and I might get those confused. So.
Yeah, so a mission, we're really talking about something that's timeless, and a vision statement is looking, you know, 5 years into the future. So I think it could potentially go either direction. But does anybody recognize this mission statement?
I do. Our current mission statement.
It is. It is. So
actually, though, Inga, I was kind of wondering, because as I have been working on this myself and reading the information that this author has presented to us, you know, maybe we're not, this statement here shouldn't start with integrity and involved citizens. Maybe it should be the City Council will strive to preserve, and then end it with integrity and involved citizens. Because it seems to me that his ideas were short and straight to the point.
Yeah, and we can play around with wordsmithing, especially if can you hear me still?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. Especially if this is a mission statement that people still like. This was developed with the 2007 strategic plan, so it's 13 years old. And if it still is reflective of the organization, then that's great, and we can wordsmith it a little bit. But if we're looking for something different 13 years later, then we can also do that as well.
I think the only thing I'd offer is the words high quality of life conflict a little bit for me, because what Larry considers a high quality of life, someone else may not. And so I'd like to figure out how to address, kind of going back to Anissa's comment about how to address diversity, even in terms of measuring the quality of life. Example, some people are comfortable with chickens in their backyard and others aren't.
Mm-hmm. So any other comments on this? I guess one other point just is that the purpose of the mission statement isn't necessarily for employees to be able to repeat it back in these elevator speeches, but I think that there should be general knowledge of what the mission statement is. So I appreciate those who recognized our current mission statement, and then just trying to convey that complete message to the public and decision makers as well.
I like the idea of perhaps even taking the name of the City Council out of there and just saying Milton is an inclusive, progressive community which promotes diversity, safe and active, safe, healthy environment, enabling the community, you know, and on along those lines, that rather than specifically just the City Council, and that we talk in more of a generality of what we're promoting as a community.
I think that makes sense, because this is the mission statement, not necessarily just for the council, but for the entire organization. So being more inclusive of our employees, I think, and potentially community members makes sense.
Okay.
I'd like to see us get rid of the word preserve. Preserve kind of makes it sound like everything's hunky-dory as it is, and we don't need to do anything. And if we just go back to the way it was, things would be good. And in fact, we want to be more forward-looking than that. So preserve is the word I don't like in there.
What if you change the word preserve to provide?
That's better in my mind.
Or to promote.
Or promote.
And I do like the idea, and this, we could stick with this all night, but we can't. Of like Bill said, like this sort of growth mindset, or do you know what I mean? Like communities, they have to grow, and individuals have to grow, and we kind of want to all grow together and support each other as people, as a community, businesses. I don't know how to put that in words, but it kind of along the lines of what Bill said.
Yeah, let's keep moving forward here. So John Luthi talks about, using as few words as possible in a mission statement. You want to keep it clear and concise, and should be 2 to 5 sentences at most, maybe just one. And avoid slogans or mottos like protect and serve. That's not exactly a mission statement. This is an example of a mission statement from the book. I know that I sent out the PowerPoint presentation in advance, so you may have already read this. I'll read this one. I won't read through all of them though, because that would get long, and we don't need to listen to me talk that much. Street maintenance operations provides leadership, management, professional technical expertise, and operating services to efficiently and responsibly preserve the city's streets, rights of way, and drainage system at the highest possible level of safety and reliability. So this is specifically just for that street maintenance operations department. And then this is one for the police department. Again, I included it with the PowerPoint presentation, so I'm not going to read through all of these. And then this one's for a library. So ultimately, he says that there's 2 questions that you can look at answering. Why does the city of Milton as an organization exist, and what does it do? So we can work on trying to answer some of those questions, and then seeing maybe what comes up, what we like, and I can just type these in as we're talking.
That might be better if you just type them in, Inga.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I would just add, and you can tell me if you think it's too short. Let's see. We serve. See now, and I questioned whether or not to put the city council or not put the city council. So I'm glad Teresa clarified that. To serve a city to live, work, and play in. I know that's something that we repeatedly say about Milton, but is it too small for what we're doing in this introduction?
Well, it says to avoid mottos, slogans, or any catchphrase.
Yeah, and that concept of live, work, and play, that's something that's said a lot, in tourism promotions, that kind of thing.
Right.
Creating a safe environment.
That's a good one, especially these days.
Safe and healthy environment.
Provide city services or municipal services. I know that's not exciting, but the other thing I was thinking of, and maybe that goes, it could go under what does it do too, I suppose. I don't know how to articulate without, and not saying to preserve history, but we have this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a responsibility and an obligation to safely keep the history of our city. Do you know what I mean? And Ryan, maybe you can help me out.
I was going to say, what if to be stewards of our city's history and culture?
Yeah, that takes care of culture.
Although we don't want the culture of slavery.
No,
or
but
sundowning.
I'm mostly talking about a city's culture as a whole. To be the stewards of that, and kind of take care of it. Not being specific to any type of culture or history, just to be stewards and caretakers of it, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
One thing that I'd like to see somehow in there is maybe the word opportunity. I think one of the things that we're about is providing opportunity for people to succeed at whatever is their way of succeeding. And that may be success in business, that may be success in education, that may be success in retirement. So that success looks like something different to different people, but providing that opportunity, that environment that kind of promotes this is a place where I can succeed at whatever it is that I'm trying to do.
So basically, to provide an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
If you want to sum it up, right?
Innovative.
So provide an environment.
Yeah, an environment
for success.
Yeah.
Because that's what we talk sometimes
That
about
works.
with business development. It's and maybe Al can talk more about that concept.
Yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. I don't believe it's government's job to ensure that businesses are successful, but I believe that it's government's job to create an environment in which businesses can succeed. So we do that by investing in our infrastructure and creating opportunities, as Bill pointed out, for businesses to succeed. If we had terrible streets and terrible parking lots and not enough parking, public parking, and we didn't care about beautification or lighting our streets, businesses could not succeed in those environments. Maybe some could. Probably not the kinds that we want, but maybe some could. But I believe that government has a role, this is just my personal opinion, government has a role in creating an environment in which businesses can succeed. So that's kind of always been one of my
And
motto,
it's not just businesses, it's individuals too.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
So
And what I was thinking of too was like resilient and thriving families, or a resilient and thriving community. But I like the terms resilient and thriving, because I do think we need to be resilient.
I like the developing partnerships between government and the people to accomplish goals.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I had highlighted from these examples. That's kind of what I did, is I went through and pulled out, pulled out statements that I felt were good. And that was one of them, Larry, with the community and other public service agencies, because we do that. We work with our community. It's not just, we don't just work amongst ourselves.
Question for you, Inga.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these actually seem like they more correspond to the what does it do more than the why does the organization exist? Just kind of, are we kind of answering both questions at the same time?
Yeah, and I probably should have moved them over to the other area of the whiteboard. This is my first time using the whiteboard, though.
No, that's fine. I was just looking at it here again, and things like provide an environment for success kind of more qualifies to what does it do, but it kind of all corresponds together either way. Both questions kind of do. I just was just curious.
I made a line.
I had a similar thought to Ryan's thought, and I'm trying not to interject too much. Why does the city of Milton exist? I think, and this is just my opinion, governments exist to provide the essential or basic life, safety, and environmental constructs for a society to exist. If you were to ask somebody in another community, depending on where they are or their political ideology or their goals or their values, they may disagree with a ton of the things that we just wrote down. They may say that government has no role whatsoever in, preserving history or culture. That's not government's role. That's for historical societies, and that's for newspapers, and that's for, preservation societies. But what we value in Milton is different, and I think it's important to separate those two things. You know, governments exist. You know, some people think they shouldn't exist at all, but governments exist really to do those core functions: police, roads, water, wastewater. You know, those are the essential core functions of life and safety and environmental issues. What we do is expand upon those things. How we expand upon those things and why we expand upon those things are a direct result of our values as a community, what we hold to be important to us as a community. So bike trails and a library and a splash pad, those are all governmental functions in the city of Milton that other communities may believe, nope, government has no role, no business in that. You pick up my trash and you make sure my faucet turns on and you come to my house when I call 911. That's it. But what we do is go beyond that, and that's based on our values and our goals. And I know I'm jumping ahead, Inga, but I think that's how I bifurcate that line that Inga has on that whiteboard. Maybe it's just a different way to think about things. Again, I'm not saying that anything anybody has said is wrong. I agree with everything everybody wrote because that's who we are. We are Milton, not to sound cliche, but you know, we want to expand beyond just plowing the streets and patching potholes. We want other things to create that resilient and thriving community, and to, you know, make sure that there are opportunities for success both in your personal, family, and business lives. So that's how I bifurcate those things.
That's what I was thinking too.
So I could have just said ditto.
I just basically did. So
somewhere in there, I'd like us to think about sustainability. Just, you know, that becomes a norm, and I think it already is in many cases, a norm for how we govern and how we make decisions about governing our parks and our water systems, our sewer systems, all of that we look for sustainability in some fashion for the future.
And, you know, mission statements can be longer and more complicated, like the examples that we showed, but Beloit's is simply, the city of Beloit's mission is to provide outstanding public service. Period. So, so we can make it as complicated or as simple as really we want it to. This is going to be, you know, our plan, and whatever we want to do, we can do. So any other comments on this piece? Because what we can do is talk a little bit more about this existing mission statement.
I just want to throw something in quick to just dovetail on what Inga just said. Keep in mind, we don't have to jam everything into a mission statement.
Right.
Right.
We're going to have a vision, values, goals, and objectives.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have opportunities to place some of these things maybe in other spaces. So don't think you have to put everything into your mission statement.
Right.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that too, I mean, the police department has their own mission statement as well. And some of the other departments may want to look at making their own mission statements. So, you know, trying to also cram in all of our services and functions, we don't need to do that either. And the library, I know that you guys were working on a strategic plan as well. So
we have a mission. I think Bill created it, so it's
Right.
a pretty good one.
And if we can do it with great brevity, the better. You know, people don't read them when you try to pack in a bunch of words.
Right. Yes.
So I've heard that we want to remove, if we stick with this existing mission statement, we want to remove the word preserve and look at using provide or promote instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
High quality of life.
I just struggle with the word high. I guess it's undefined for me, but maybe there's no other word that can go with that.
And do we want to start or use this one to begin with, or do we want to start over?
That's a good question.
I'm not. I didn't get the idea that we wanted to use this and then start to pick it apart. And I don't mean that to be critical of what's there, but
nope, that's fine.
You know, because I'm afraid that we'll get so cut and pasted that we might not come up with something that is cohesive. You know, we talked about some ideas of making sure that it is inclusive and has diversity and those ideas to ensure that we include some of the changes that have occurred over the past few years. Maybe just the idea of starting over philosophically as well as physically, starting over with this statement might be beneficial to all of us.
I kind of like that idea because it's a nice sort of delineation from, you know, the past 13 years. It kind of fits in with kind of everything has changed in 2020.
Yeah, I think so.
It's interesting. I actually like the second half of that, though. But the first half, it makes sense to change it and stuff. So I'm kind of a little bit both ways, but I like the second half a lot. So, which you know, maybe we start over, but maybe we keep a portion of it. I don't know.
Well, you can, but I mean, start with what you want to say now, and it's the idea of starting with this and then trying to pull. But start with your own new statement to say what you want, and then if there are things you want to add into it, that's different. But what do you want to say to begin with?
Right, and I agree on not having, you know, when I look at it, it says current City of Milton mission statement, but then it refers to the Common Council. And then it seems like it's more of a city council mission statement.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what we're going for or not.
Right. I think it would be good to start with the word Milton. Milton, comma.
I think City of Milton.
Or City of Milton, comma. A community that strives through leadership and integrity to serve and meet the needs of its citizens. I'm just throwing something out there.
Say it again, because I have City of Milton, a community that strives through leadership and integrity to
meet service needs of our citizens. I mean, it's just a place to start.
We like places to start because that leads to a finish.
And what if you add the last after the last comma in the current mission statement, and just add in and foster a community in which people are proud to live. Keep that portion.
Yep.
Could we put it diverse in front of community?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
A diverse and inclusive community.
That's fine, yeah. Because I will say that's very important. One of the things that I love about Milton is my wife and myself and my daughter feel welcome here, despite our physical challenges. We feel like it's a great community to be in. I mean that sincerely. I've lived in many communities, so I appreciate that acceptance.
So, City of Milton, a diverse and inclusive community that strives through leadership and integrity to serve the needs of our citizens and foster a community in which people are proud to live.
That sounds good.
Would diverse and inclusive sound better in the second community?
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
Foster.
Sorry, guys.
I missed that.
Foster a diverse
that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So if this is our mission, Are we creating a community that strives? Are we promoting a community that
I'd like to
strives?
promote.
Maintain.
One of my best, one of the phrases that I like best in terms of planning is something that comes from Alan Kay, who is a futurist, but who was involved in the early days of kind of envisioning laptop computers. And Kay's statement was the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And the point there is that you are creating something that it's a proactive. It's not sitting back and responding or reacting. It's being proactive and I think that fits with what you're saying.
I'm wondering if we need to change that needs of our citizens to foster. I just feel like that and foster a diverse and inclusive community is there's too many ands in there.
Yeah, I think that's right. To foster.
Or that foster.
Change that to foster a diverse. Can you change that?
I think so. Again, sorry guys, first time using the whiteboard. Still learning.
You're doing great, Inga.
Oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to, though.
And I'm not sure the two actually make sense either, though.
No.
What if you put a semicolon instead?
Maybe. How about fostering a
To
diverse?
service the needs of our citizens.
That
Foster a diverse and inclusive community.
Put that fosters in there. That's more active, action oriented.
Okay, the needs.
I don't know if that works. That fosters, etc.
Okay. And build resilience in people in the community in which they're proud to live. Let's see.
That's interesting.
Okay, and foster a diverse, inclusive community in which people with resiliency are proud to live.
We can't just take the and out and put fostering. Is that not grammatically correct?
Doesn't sound right.
No.
It needs to be a break there of some sort, whether it be an and or otherwise.
What about by fostering?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a better word than foster, I guess?
Promoting.
Encouraging.
I don't know if by is also right because you're talking about trying to service the needs of citizens. To talking about fostering and diversive.
The action that.
Yeah, two different things, two different thoughts going on here in a way.
Yeah.
Not one leading to the other. So
Maybe
it's not.
we need a period.
Could.
That's why I was wondering if a semicolon would work.
To serve the needs of the citizens, period. This is done, this is achieved by fostering a diverse and inclusive community in which people are proud to live. 2 sentences.
So far, I think the end's the best option.
Yeah, just put something out there.
A progressive community that strives to.
What if we flipped it and put strives through leadership to foster a community, diverse and inclusive community, and provide services that meets needs, or like, you know what I mean? Put diversity and inclusion after leadership. We could even take out and integrity.
Well, the only reason I put integrity in there is many communities, many of them larger, of course, than Milton, are not using integrity in the management of their services to people.
It could be grounded in integrity.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think that's really important today. these are all good ideas. How to put them together.
I think you can get rid of the and grounded in integrity. Just keep leadership grounded in integrity.
Yeah.
I think that gets rid of that and that's one less and you still leaves you 2, but I think you'd be fine then.
I mean, it does require just, I mean, you could change it to the city of Milton strives to serve the needs of our citizens. I mean, it just takes a little work to perhaps bring this back next time after someone can do a little word.
It is.
I think it's got our general idea down that we want.
Yeah.
Just needs wordsmithing.
Yeah.
I like starting with City of Milton. That just grabs me right away.
And I like serve better than service.
Yes, I agree.
Did I mess that up?
No.
No.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Someone needs to just sit down and do this without trying to slam it up.
Right.
Well, 6 of us are yelling at you to different ways.
Brainstorming and.
But basically, it has a to figure out the words, which makes sense to have maybe Inga or somebody else to look at this and just from the wording aspect and maybe retune it, just fine tune it from there rather than having all of us try to fine tune it together with different opinions.
So what I'm hearing is that people like integrity. Is that right?
Yeah.
We like serve.
Yes.
Yep. We like the if I could spell inclusive correctly, diverse and inclusive.
Yeah.
I think we talked about liking promote instead of foster. Promote a diverse and inclusive community in which people are proud to live.
Yeah, I like saying, Teresa.
We could also cross out a community. We could just put.
Well, we say it twice. If we
the city
we
of
cannot
Milton.
waste our wording to say it twice.
Yeah, to say the city of Milton strives through leadership grounded in integrity to serve the needs of our citizens and foster a diverse and inclusive community in which people are proud to live or promote.
That
sounds pretty good.
That sounds great.
Hey guys, we did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, sounds great.
I'm just going to say it's because of all the team building you guys all so graciously participate in every week.
Yeah. Nice try.
There's team building tonight, right?
This is team building.
I mean, after this.
Okay.
Yeah, you brought the activity, your baby.
See somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, that exercise in picking or telling our favorite picnic food really helped.
Yeah.
I knew it would. I'm creating new pathways in your brains.
Yeah.
So do we all like this?
Yeah.
We don't need to approve it tonight. What I'll do.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So we'll take another look at it next week and make sure it still makes sense. But I'll also have the employee focus group take a look at it as well, because I think it's important to have the employees' input on that too.
Inga,
yeah.
One thing you could do is maybe send out after the employee one, send out a couple of examples. You know, this one, and maybe if there's another one that evolves from the employees, and then we can look at them as before we get together. You know what I mean? Yeah. React.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that was a lot. Are you ready to move on to the next thing?
Sure.
Okay. Let's go back here. So we're going to talk about the vision statement now. So this is just another thing to get you thinking about the future for Milton, what we should include in the vision. In the next 5 years, the city of Milton is on the cover of a magazine. What's the story going to be? And we could just talk about it if anyone has any ideas of what they want to see on the cover of a magazine about Milton.
I like healthiest community in Rock County, sustainable,
Like Ashley's.
Yeah, there you go. I like that too.
library of the year, powered by solar.
I look full of trees and plantings and bike trails.
Self-sufficient, we grow our own food.
Clean water, keeping our water clean.
Well managed, fiscally sound. Dan would like that. He's not here.
Debt free unless absolutely necessary.
Affordable, diverse housing.
Infrastructure is adequate and to accommodate the future needs.
High level
I
of
mean,
happiness.
you know, the ones you have here are in paragraph form, and some of the ones that I was looking at are listed just with bullet points. Does anyone have a thought about your preferences?
I like the bullet points, so it makes it more concise.
I think it's easier to recognize what they are by looking at them in bullet points, but
And
I guess I'd like to hear from from others, but I like that personally. And
so here's another question for you. If a citizen asked you to describe what you see in the future affecting the organization as a whole, what would you say?
Affordable housing, environmentally sound, commercial and residential growth, the expansion of transportation and public services.
Small business support and development. So in other words, making it a community where small businesses want to locate.
Mm-hmm. Educational opportunities. I don't know how you can put education in there, but we probably, we've got a technical college, plus an awesome school district.
And we got those training facilities for the trades.
So it says organization. Are we really trying to focus on affecting our city? Instead, because it says if a citizen asks you to describe what you see in the future affecting your department and or organization.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, yeah, I mean, is it the organization and how that affects the city, your city's organization?
Or how the current environment could affect a department or the organization as a whole. So a few months ago, the unemployment rate was extremely low. So it was difficult for us to be able to continually find employees with the qualifications that we needed. That has changed since the pandemic hit. The unemployment rate is higher now, but that was something that affected our departments and their ability to fill positions. So that's one example of something that we could look at.
And the one thing that I had mentioned about infrastructure, and because I was thinking about why we hired Mark for our own staff, and that's to help us look at the infrastructure and how we can make sure that we're maintaining it and looking at it more efficiently over time so that we stayed on top of it. Is that part of this?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So the vision guidelines, I guess, we're again just being realistic. I know that there are some vision statements that are more like lofty goals, I guess, and that's something that that we can look to do as well. So it just depends on what you want the vision statement to look like. But these are a couple guidelines that they had in the book.
well, I'm wondering about like a strong financial foundation, or maybe we're debt free, or
yeah, I think to be a fiscally sound community is significant. I mean, whether we can be completely debt free or just fiscally sound probably are two different things, but you know.
Yeah.
Could be fiscally resilient too, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think I might be afraid to put debt free as one of our goals, but fiscally sound is something that I think that is more realistic.
Yeah, and that's funny. In the book, he's talking about, be realistic, be practical. So he says, you can say crime rates half of the nation's national average within 10 years. You don't necessarily want to say crime free within 10 years because that may not be a realistic thing for a community to have.
Right.
Same thing with debt. There may always be some element of debt that we're going to need to have or deal with.
The other thing I'm thinking about too, and I don't know if this is I'm not clear on where is the best place for vision and goals, as far as, just being adapted to our environment. When we think about climate change or other things like that, I'm not sure where that goes.
We can put something in the vision statement about that type of a point you want to make, and then it can be something. So we can clarify it more in like a goal if we wanted to do that.
To prepare for it, you mean, Anissa?
To prepare and adapt.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I do feel like, there might be some adapting to, I don't know, I'm just, I'm not like thinking all that succinctly about it, but just that it has to be, we do have to adapt somehow to it. I do think, there's going to be, so the models say there's going to be more flooding or,
right.
Maybe people are going to have to change, how they landscape or rain gardens or whatever. So I don't know like where that fits in, I guess.
Well, I think you can word it somehow that we prepare to accommodate for present and future needs, but word it somehow under that need.
This is a copy from the book, Acceptable in Rapidly Changing Environment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not acceptable, adaptable in rapidly changing environment. That is one of our strengths. I mean, we've been pretty good at that.
I think that one of the things I read recently is because of COVID and just all the general changes that have occurred in our society, that people are going to return back to living closer to work, closer to their workplace. They want to spend more time with their family. They value their health and their safety. So all of those things I think are going to be important if we want to keep Milton the way it's headed now. We have to address those issues to make it a place where people want to live, where people feel comfortable living, where people can live healthy and happy.
There was one when I was poking around, looking at what other cities did that I really liked. And it's a little bit wonky. I just put it in the chat. I don't like words like optimizing opportunities and operational excellence, but I think the idea is there. When you really come down to it, what people want is really quality services, and they want it to be affordable. Not necessarily the lowest cost, but they want it to be within their means somehow. And, so the balance we're trying to achieve is that balance between affordability and great services. And part of the way we do that is through that operational excellence stuff. We do things better than others, and we do that by figuring out what best practices are. We do that by anticipating change. There are a whole lot of different ways that we achieve that operational excellence and kind of look to the future in creating this land of opportunity.
One of the comments that I had highlighted was that paying particular attention to cost effectiveness and fiscal responsibility. It's something that we do now, but I know that it's something that we will continue to do.
Well, I think also just like planning, sound financial preparedness. I mean, that's part of the strategic planning, but just like overall having, when I look at what will the organization do to address, avoid, or counter the predicted challenges or issues you identified, if we have sound financial planning and structures in place that are adaptable and agile, and somehow include what Bill said.
And that probably includes infrastructure for potential expansion or annexation. I know people don't like to talk about that, but the reality is that there'll probably be annexation issues coming up for our community as we grow. We want people to come and live here. They're going to need places to live. So, can't ignore it.
I do like these two questions. Inga, do you have enough to add things that we've talked about under each question?
Yeah, I think so. I was just going to kind of put everything just under a brainstorm section. Thought that might.
Okay, and then you're going to divide it up later?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that I've already suggested mine. Affordable and diverse housing. Environmentally sound, commercial and residential growth. That probably should be worded differently. The expansion of transportation and other public services, the expansion of utilities. I don't know where to put utilities.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd also like to under what do you see coming at the city of Milton in the future? I mean, I know right now maybe there's high unemployment, but we want to attract and retain high quality employees and provide a level of benefits to do that, and a culture, create a culture where people want to come and work for our organization.
One of the things that we need to exercise care and do is that we maintain a balanced tax base. I use a particular community we worked with in Pennsylvania as an example. Just a beautiful place, beautiful homes, and they were going to go bust because they didn't have anything except residential, and they wanted it to stay that way. They didn't want retail. They turned down having a mall come because that was going to destroy their residential, the residential nature. And we need this balance of industrial and retail because that helps to support the residential. And so somehow making sure that as part of our stewardship, that we make sure that we have a balanced tax base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
I agree
true.
with that.
Because we don't want any specific industry, like, how Janesville struggled because everything was tied to General Motors. So, a diversity in employment opportunities. I don't know if we want to use diversity again, if there's if there's another word we want to say. It's not coming to me right now because it's 8 o'clock. So maybe
business entrepreneurship.
Right, promote small businesses, attract and retain small businesses in our downtowns, have attractive downtowns. That and also one of the things we haven't talked about is tourism. And having third places that create a strong sense of community.
So encouraging development of tools. We have some already, but we could encourage other types of entities to come here to make this a destination. I think shared services should be part of our vision, that we're open to sharing opportunities and services with our surrounding neighbors and community.
Yeah, collective partnerships at, I would say state or local and state level.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really think that's a wonderful idea. And it's a matter of survival, right, for local government.
Okay. So Teresa talked a little bit about having a bullet point vision statement rather than a paragraph. What does the group think about that type of approach?
Why don't we try it?
Let's try it and see what it looks like.
I mean, you can't list all of these. You have to somehow put them into four or five statements that can collect some basic ideas.
Well, I wonder if we could develop categories.
Ultimately, these will expand into our goals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if we divided them into certain categories, like maybe it's housing, maybe it's environment, I don't know that we need to do it tonight. Maybe we should set an end time and we stop wherever we are. It could be 8:30 or it could be 9, but we should have a time before our brains get too tired.
Yeah, it depends on how you word it. I mean, for example, if you said, diverse opportunities for recreation, cultural areas and economic development, well, then you're looking at it from a different perspective. But yes, if you look at it from recreation for one area and economics for a different area, once you play with it a little bit, you'll get a better idea of how you want to set it up.
One of the things we might want to include in this, the final piece, is leadership, exhibiting leadership. I think that we have really done that. We've tried new approaches to governing a small or mid-sized municipality like ours.
Courageous leadership.
And what would be cool is if other people would see that and say, hey, could we try that in our community? Could we be doing that in our township? Could we be doing that at the state level, perhaps?
So just to move things along, are there any other ideas that you think would be important to include? Because what I can do is kind of try and put these together in categories and see what I can come up with and maybe give some options for the next meeting to look at. Does that sound like a good plan, or do you want to do something different?
I think we should keep moving because we do have we have things divided up by dates about what we want to accomplish. And so, I mean, I want to be flexible, but I also want to keep us moving towards our scheduled completion date of this too.
Mm-hmm.
I would just try to fit it in some format that makes sense from your perspective. Yeah. And then, you know, if we have changes, we'll have another slice at this, right? At some point, as a group or as individual focus groups.
Is there anything on here that people are not in agreement with that we don't want to include? Or at least try to include. I don't know. I don't know how long this might get, but.
Yeah, I like it.
That's a good one from Ashley, yeah.
Yeah, good point, Ashley.
And old people, too.
I think some of them can be combined.
Oh yeah,
I definitely think that could
definitely.
happen.
Yeah,
As
so
to, it's to not make it super long. Energy efficiency, environmentally sound, environmentally friendly. You know, those things can be kind of encapsulated in one or two words.
Yep.
I like the idea of, you know, it's kind of a buzzword today, but, you know, progressive, courageous leadership. Does it indeed embody those types of thought processes? And then in the goals and values, we can further elucidate those in more refined things. But saying that we are a progressive community does kind of grab a lot of those things that we're that are outlined in these bullet points.
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
Oh.
Innovative too.
I think we got to look out for words that might be landmines, though. Progressive has got political charge to it lately.
Mm-hmm.
I love the word progressive, but I'm not sure it's the right one for right now. You know, so as we get into it, we need to think about whether or not our words carry more meaning than we necessarily ascribe to them.
Forward thinking. Future oriented. I hear what you're saying.
There you go, future oriented.
And luckily we have access to a thesaurus, so we can look at some other options too. No, but I think that's a good point, Bill.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the same is true of the word citizen. You know, citizen's a great word, but someone can jump on that and say, "Oh, they mean that you know, if I haven't been sworn in as a citizen, I'm not welcome in Milton." You know, so some places end up using the word resident as opposed to citizen. We just need to comb through it. And it doesn't have to happen now. It can happen, you know, later on. And we can look at these things and say, let's have a couple of readers look at this in that kind of light.
yeah, and just to your point, Bill, you might notice in the communications that I send out that I never use anything other than community member when I'm referring to people in the community, because even resident, if you don't have a home, if you're homeless in Milton, then we still want to be inclusive of you as well, or if you're staying with someone, that kind of thing. So community member has been my term of choice, I guess.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll try and take all of these ideas and put them together into a vision statement or bullet pointed list. We'll see what we can come up with. Okay. So we are going to move on to the values portion of today. And that's essentially, in our organization, we believe. And then we finish that with what we believe.
Along the lines of what Scott said, things can go in different places. We used integrity earlier on. That might be fine up front, but integrity, I think, is one of the values, one of the things that we value.
So I just want to show a couple examples. I know that, I sent out this paragraph type form in the PowerPoint, and there's another one. Oh, and here's another paragraph. But the city of Beloit does something a little bit different. Maybe I can share this.
You got the city of Abington too. We helped form that.
Yeah. So do you see this PDF?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is their core organizational values. So they spelled out Beloit, and then they put values with it.
Well, that's a cool idea.
So just a different way to look at it and do it. So I appreciated that type of different way to do something.
And I sent you something that was along that line, Inga.
Yes.
Spelled out. I like that too. That concept.
I like the concept as well.
I like it too.
It's a good thing we aren't Tallahassee.
Right? I wouldn't be suggesting it if we were one of those. Larry, I don't have your email up right now, and I have so many screens going. I'd be afraid that I wouldn't be able to find it again. But do you want to talk about what you sent to me?
Well, I guess it was just an idea, but it was along those same lines, using Milton as the beginning letter of each thing, and in there was leadership, innovation for I for innovation, L for leadership. Help me, nature at the end. The end was nature, meaning we would support or encourage natural habitat or in our community and those sort of things. So I don't have it right in front of me either, but the whole idea is kind of just what you showed. And I think it's a great way of communicating to people because you see the city, you see the name of the community there. And I think what was the Inga, do you remember? I should.
No, I don't.
Management. So
manage.
That we manage the situation. We don't wait for problems to continue, or we don't wait for them to escalate. We manage the issue, and I think we're good at that. We try to manage situations. We manage discussions. We manage resolution. We manage towards a possible solution. So anyway, thanks. That's just was my idea. I like to see it here that I didn't know Beloit did that. So that's pretty cool.
I like Beloit's categories too. Like I like their themes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Future, we respect the past, but value the future. Something like that. I think that's a value we would like. I mean, that's the value I would.
And
I was going to ask how we tie history into it. That's, I think, a good way to possibly do that.
Yeah. So, Larry, you said manage.
Yeah, that was the M.
Mm-hmm.
And then the I was innovative or innovation. I used the noun, innovation. And I think L was for leadership, meaning we don't just wait for things to happen. We take leadership. We exhibit leadership. T and I'm sorry. Just don't remember what my
I also like how, and I don't know how to word it, I'm a member of the Ethical Leadership Wisconsin, and we're not polarized. Like, we're not like, party affiliated. Like, this is nonpartisan. It's collaborative. It's collective. It's we place the highest and greatest good You know, we have the, you know, kind of like community comes first. And I like Ashley's, you know, thing about we value community engagement.
Mm-hmm.
It was teamwork. So that ties into what Mayor said. Well, T for teamwork. And O was optimistic. It's coming back to me now. We are optimistic for the future and the present, and N was nature.
Devin has a good one of inclusion, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted inclusion in there, and also open-minded. Like, I believe that we have continued to be open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nonpartisan. I mean, it's kind of important that you put that out there. Somehow.
Yeah.
Also transparent. I think we have tried to, you know, be a transparent organization. We, you know, typically, and this will change because I'm saying it, you know, we don't have a lot of closed sessions, right? Like we.
Not anymore.
We, you know, there's and, you know, it's not that we were doing anything wrong before, but, you know, we take on the hard topics. Like, we are not shying away from anything. You know, we kind of like address issues as they come. We don't put anything off.
I think we also value public input, and we make decisions often that our decisions are adjusted based on solid public input.
I think we learn from the past to plan for the future, because I mean we've shown that a lot in the last couple of years, because we've learned from the past, in a way, in our view now, maybe mistakes that were made in city government or decisions that were made in city government when it comes to certain debt activities, and we've planned in the future to try to prevent, to not have that occur again, things like that.
I was actually going to say exactly the way Ryan just said it. Learn from the past to project the future. I think I didn't want to be too presumptuous, though. I didn't want to think that was too boastful.
Al, you and I are thinking along the same train tonight, it seems.
We are. But you know, I actually wasn't thinking along those lines. Funny you say that. I was thinking a lot more globally. You know, we've learned from the past. We've learned from our ancestors. You know, and we've carried those. You know, we've carried those lessons forward.
Well, the funny thing is, that's how I actually got on that train of thought, and then I made it more local sounding.
Right, you and I just want to do this.
Yes, I'm going home now, and I'm going to play Words with Friends.
Because yeah, as I said, I started with like, how can we get history tied into this, and then I was like, oh wait, you know.
Ooh, I like Ashley's too.
Inga had used Peter Drucker near the introduction, and one of the things that Drucker was famous for saying was he talked about the futurity of present decisions. In other words, the decisions we make today have an impact on tomorrow. And I think that's an important one somehow to remember here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've had those discussions too about being mindful of the impact you know, the policies we create today, making them able to be navigated by future councils, like not tying the hands of future councils either. And I also was thinking about like a growth mindset, which encompasses a lot of this too, about like personal growth, community growth, adaptation, not just economic growth, but just like growth overall, because I do believe that as individuals and as a community, we have to grow.
You want to just include everything on that list, Inga?
Right? So this is, you know, who doesn't love Brene Brown, right? So this is a list of values that she has. in the book and then on the website as well. And one of the things I took from the chapter was that you can't necessarily have different values from where you work to what you have personally. And this is for all of our employees, so we want to make sure that our employees are able to live, I can't think of the right terminology for it, but live the values that we put in place for the organization, that we're all in agreement with them too.
Well, one of the things that I try to approach everything is like from a servant to leadership. Like, this is not about me individually, but to approach things from, and service is one of the things. So my 3 values, not that this has to be in the organization, but my values are service, justice, and courage. And
what was the last one?
Courage. Service, justice, courage.
Okay.
Proactive. I don't see that on.
When I was in college, I remember I was in a class that was just talking about like how to, deal with getting a job in the future and stuff like that. One of the things that we learned in that class was like the most sought after one of the items and values on that list by employers is loyalty. And I think it'd be, maybe something to add is fostering loyalty. I don't know.
Or a commitment to community, or a commitment to the organization.
No, that's a better way of putting it.
So we might not come to a final conclusion tonight.
Might not spell Milton either. Maybe it'll be City of Milton.
Yeah.
the City of Milton in Wisconsin, USA.
Yeah,
there we go.
But that's okay. That's part of the process.
We've had a long day. We've had a lot going on. So I am just impressed by the enthusiasm and level of engagement of everyone, because we've had a lot on our minds lately, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of you sticking with us, and all the work that Inga has done. It's been very impressive. I love everything that she's shared with us.
So what I think moving forward to the next meeting, just because it's getting rather late, if there aren't any other values that you want listed as options, what I'll do is I'll type these up into a formal email, send them to the council, and then maybe at the next meeting come with your top 5 that you think should be included, and then we'll go from there.
I wonder, Inga, and I know this might complicate it, like if we just email you our top 5, and then you put together, kind of combine them and give us 3. Would that work? Then we wouldn't have to.
Yeah, well, if we want to, I mean, we can have as many values as we want necessarily. We could have 5, we could have 3, we could have 8. It just depends on what the group wants to do.
Well, I like that idea though. You send them out and then we send back by email back, and then you could show, maybe we vote on it, so to speak, right? And the top 10 we vote. And then you show the population of that.
We won't have a formal vote via email.
Right.
But you can send me your top 5, and then I'll see what that looks like, and then we can talk about it again next week, because we have a meeting again on Tuesday.
Is that where we're going to take up that ordinance about chickens wearing masks?
Yes, exactly.
The bees have said that that's possible.
Thanks, Bill.
Or we're going to talk about flea farms. That way we have the birds, bees, and the fleas.
So are there any other values that you want added to the list?
Humor.
Humor, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humor and fun. One life has to be.
Maybe Bill is familiar with Ben Zander. Are you familiar with Ben Zander?
Yeah.
He always had that line. Remember rule number 6?
Yeah.
There was no rule 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah.
Everybody would always ask, "What's rule number 6?" And he says, "Don't take yourself so seriously."
Thank you. I totally needed that reminder.
There you go.
So anything else? No?
Sounds good. You've done a great job. Thank you, Edith.
Yes,
So-
you've been awesome.
Well, thank you. I do have like one more slide left. So this is a quote from Brené Brown, our favorite author. Living into our values means that we do more than profess our values, we practice them. We walk our talk, we are clear about what we believe and hold important, and we take care that our intentions, words, thoughts, and behaviors align with those beliefs. So one of the next conversations that we'll have is how to operationalize the values that we choose, what observed and teachable behaviors we can align with each of those values. And I think that's important to continue to develop our organizational culture and the expectations of our employees.
Maybe you could make that into a poster.
Well, I'm planning to take the strategic plan, the goals, objectives, and everything, and create it into a brochure that we can give to people, because I think that that's a valuable communication tool that we can give to the community. So this is kind of the timeline that we have lined out. It's a pretty aggressive timeline. So trying to keep to all of the designated deadlines and everything. So next week we'll finalize the vision and values, because I do want the employees to take a look at those as well to make sure that there's buy-in and input from them as well. But we'll focus on the strengths of Milton and then the major issues and challenges that we're facing as well. And that will be primarily a discussion for the council, because the department heads will have a separate conversation on that topic as well. Okay.
We'll probably have more challenges by next week.
Don't say that. We don't have time.
Really?
Well, I think I was presented with a new challenge this evening. I think I've always been worried about Inga leaving us because someday she'll be a very successful city manager somewhere. But now I'm concerned she's going to leave us to be a strategic planner or motivational speaker or some sort of strategist or consultant. Good thing Bill's still not in business. He probably would have just hired her.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everyone's input, because I think this went really well, and thank you for being patient as I tried to figure out the whiteboard and being my guinea pigs in that a little bit.
We're all better people for being on the council and working with staff right now. I think it's pushing all of us to grow and learn new things, and it's exciting and exhausting all at once.
Nobody wants to leave.
Yeah, really.
It takes me 15 minutes to pack myself up. That's why I've delayed.
Well, we're waiting for our game. What are we
Our
playing?
game?
There's no team building tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know where we are on the agenda.
See, look where Teresa's at. You know, she's depressed now because we don't have the team building.
Great.
I'm sorry I've let you down.
Yeah.
There is a general items on the agenda, so we could
General items.
I won't have any dreams or nightmares tonight. Nothing.
Plus Mark's not here, so
Yeah.
well, one of the Marks is not here.
Yeah.
There's no behavior requirement now.
I guess just quick, if I can, just encourage anyone that you know to complete the community survey. We've received, I think, like 15 responses so far. The deadline is going to be August 11th, but I'd love to have a ton more, obviously.
Can you share it on social media so we can share it on social media again? I can't remember where we're at with that.
Yep, I'll share it again. I'm planning to do that tomorrow. And
We
then
have 15 responses. There's 12 of us on this call right now.
Well, I wanted to ask that. That was a question I didn't have clear in my head. Do you want us to respond as a community member?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great, because not everything that we're going to cover next week is necessarily in the survey. So I think it'd be beneficial to answer those questions too. And
So
then
you and everybody that lives with you.
Yeah. So Chris Kepler reached out to me today and said, "Is it okay if I take the survey?" I'm like, "Yes, of course it is."
Well, I mean, I figured that was true, but I didn't know.
And then we are planning to have the community workshop next week on Thursday. We're going to finalize who's participating in that this week. So if anyone's interested, have them, there's the application on the website as well. The application is mainly just so we don't have, like 100 people show up for this workshop, and I won't be able to manage that many people, obviously. So just trying to make sure that the numbers for that are manageable for us. And then
what
same.
is what is the expectation of the council? Like, are we supposed to show up to that or no?
Nope. It's just for the community. So if you want to come and listen, you can, but the expectation is that dialogue is going to be led by the community participants.
Have you had a good response?
I wish I had more, but we did reach out specifically to some organizations in the community, and they've started getting back to me as well. So we'll reach out to them again just to make sure that they understood the email that was initially sent. But then, yeah, if there are other community members that are interested, it's not like you have to be an expert in planning or anything like that. It's just going to be asking you questions about what you like and don't like about Milton.
If there's any groups that any of us are associated with that you need people from, let any of us know.
Yeah. I've heard back from the Gathering Place, the Milton House, the Chamber, the County Economic Development, JCVB, United Way. I'd like to hear back from the Youth Center. So if someone is in contact with them, and the food pantry as well. I haven't heard back from them yet.
And the school district.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'll tell them.
Okay. I did send it directly to Rich, so he probably has a few other things on his mind right now, understandably.
And then Inga, do you want just regular community members too?
Yeah, and anyone that's interested, I did send out the information to some of our committee and commission members as well to see if they'd be interested.
How about that? Just the list from our Courageous Conversations, like that email list that you put together?
Yeah, I'll email them too.
Okay.
And then same thing with we're trying to put together a community or a high school student focus group as well. So if apparently teens are a little difficult to get in contact with in the summer. So if anyone knows any teens in the community that are interested, I know Ashley's reached out to the Teen Advisory Board, and then I did reach out to the school district to send something out as well.
What about Black Hawk Tech?
That's a good point. Al, I don't know if Renee would be a good contact for that, or someone else maybe directly at the campus.
I would. Renee would be a good person to reach out to. She wouldn't be the one who would probably participate. Tracy would be another one we could reach out to. But yeah, as far as local people, once it changed from Gary Krause, I'm not sure really who's gone in there.
Okay. Yeah, but we can look into that though.
We can reach out. Yep.
Another possibility is maybe the local financial institutions. They're an important part of our community. The banks and the credit union. It might be good to hear from them as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
okay,
all
so
I had.
Is that good enough for general items? So are we? So our next meeting is okay. So we do have the fire commission, right? Thursday. At what time?
7. But 7? that is not the joint meeting between the city and the town.
Correct. I'm just is there any other city meetings happening this week?
The ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, is on Thursday at 5:30.
Thursday at 5:30, and then Fire Commission.
Woo! And I can't remember. Is the council aware that there's a joint meeting between the city and the town scheduled for?
It was mentioned last meeting.
Okay, I couldn't remember for sure, so.
You had sent an email out too.
I did?
Yep.
Good job, Inga.
Yeah, you did.
Good job, Inga.
Oh, you did a heck of a job.
I didn't even know it or remember it.
And that's at 6 p.m.
Yes.
on the 19th.
On the 19th.
30th, right?
Not the 30th.
No.
No, the meeting on the 19th is at 6. Yeah, Teresa's correct. The meeting at the 19th.
On the 19th and 7 o'clock on Thursday.
Yes.
Correct.
And then next Tuesday, we'll have Plan Commission and City Council.
It's very likely. We will definitely have city council. It's likely we will have plan commission.
And that'll be whatever date that is.
August 4th.
August 4th at 6 p.m. or if you're on Plan Commission, 4 p.m. Anything else for the good of the order or the bad of the order?
Can I just ask one question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Has anyone heard any complaints about the trees being removed from? Have you? Okay.
I saw the comment on Facebook underneath the Courier article.
Okay.
Trees where?
At the gathering place.
Gathering.
Oh, yeah. But
Okay.
that's not us removing them. It's the gathering place.
No,
correct?
no. Yeah. I just wonder how big it's going around. Okay.
Travesty was one word.
Okay.
I wonder if it wouldn't hurt to have maybe the gathering place do like a video PSA on their Facebook page or something, then we could share it just to let people know it's not some condo going up or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll count that as a committee report since it's not on the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's it. Good.
Okay. All right. Let's, is there a motion to adjourn?
We'll move.
Larry and Ryan and Linda. Everybody else is staying? No. All those in favor?
Linda, look out. There's a cap on.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
All those opposed? Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. We are adjourned.